Welcome to our second session of our today's class. And in this class, we are going to talk about social science methodology. Social science methodology. Under this approach, several methods linked to various social science disciplines have been brought forth. The development of social and behavioral science vastly expanded options for carrying out educational research. Various scholars from different disciplines have argued in favor of their area of specialization being used in comparative education. The vast methods available were found applicable to the study of comparative education. The result of this linkage to social science meant that trends in various disciplines shaped comparative education. Now, we have already mentioned a few methods that can be categorized under historical methods or historical method in comparative education. Now let us talk about historical method. This method involves the search for cause and effect. It pursues antecedent cause of educational policy. In the use of this method, it is assumed that the practice, device, methods, organizations of all details which go to make up the educational system cannot be transferred intact from one environment to another. The educational practices are to be adopted and not assimilated. To adopt a practice requires that there be an understanding of the cause of its existence. Thank you for coming back. I believe you have rested enough and you are now ready to continue. The pursuit of historical approach motivates the desire to discover universal causes of educational practices and to establish laws of education and science of education. In the historical method, we try to understand all those geographical, social, racial, political, religious, and linguistic factors which influence the educational system of a country. In the 28th century, the historical approach was proposed by people like Isaac Candel, who argued that the objectives of comparative education to problems in this education is in the analysis of the causes which have produced them and the underlying reasons across various educational systems. The causes were to be found in the forces and attitudes governing the social organizations and economic and political conditions that determine its development. Nicholas Hans has added religious, linguistic, geographical, racial, and political factors to historical causes. Friedrich included the nation, character, culture, foreign influences, and development of pedagogy itself. Horace Mann tried to reconcile those who advocated the historical approach only with those who included other factors. He emphasized that the past could not be changed and the future held the infinite possibilities. The future was then the field of action. The past is only valuable as a furnishing light by which that field can be more successfully entered and cultivated. Having said that, allow me to talk about the assumptions of historical approach. This approach assumes that Educational practices, device methods, structures, and organizations are not transferable intact to different educational environments. Adaptations is vital. So this is what they assumed. This is what this method or historical method assumes. It assumes that educational practices, devices, methods, structures, and organizations are not transferable intact to different educational environments. Adaptation is vital. Education problems are generally universal, but their nature is usually particular to a situation. That is what it assumes. It also assumes that educational practices is an effort to make comparison between countries. Stress must be on certain factors like political, social, and cultural that shapes the character of educational systems. Thus, as Michael Sadler emphasized, things outside the school are even more important in determining the theory and practice in educational systems. This approach analyzes the causes of similarities and discrepancies and is expected to expose the necessity of understanding the forces that influence any educational system. Having said that, friends, allow me to talk about the shortcomings of historical method in comparative education. One of the greatest limitations of the historical method is that data on which we base our study may not be reliable because in the collection of data, due care is not observed. Therefore, the conclusions derived cannot be very useful. Another shortcoming of historical method is that the historical materials are educational systems of various countries are generally not reliable. I repeat that the historical materials about educational systems of various countries are generally not reliable. This limits the utility of the historical data. Hence, more research is needed for making them reliable. Another difficulty with the historical method is that historians generally are not impartial in their accounts. They want to conceal undesirable elements about the history of their own country and look on the facts related to other countries with prejudice. This or thus, the truth is not known and we cannot reach the right conclusions because of this hiding of real facts. And lastly, in the historical method, the past is unduly emphasized. Thus, the study of comparative education becomes unbalanced. Friends, having said that, kindly allow me talk about the sociological approach, the sociological method, or the sociological approach to comparative education. In the sociological method, the educational problems are studied in a social context. This is done with the belief that the educational system of a country is conditioned by its social, cultural, economic, political, and religious situations. Hence, the educational problems of a country have their origin in some social problems and they do not exist by themselves as there is a close relationship between education and society. The sociological method of the study of comparative education does not emphasize only on the past casualties or causative factors, but also those social and cultural aspects which may be reasonable for that problem. My friends, quite a number are not in class and have been following up, have realized that even in our previous class, there are those guys who have not even listened to those videos. I wonder when they are going to listen to this. So this is what we have said about sociological approach. That in the sociological method, the educational problems are studied in a social context. We've also said that this is done with the belief that the educational system of a country is conditioned by its social, cultural, economic, political, and religious situations. And we have also said that the educational problems of a country have their origin in some of the social problems and they do not exist by themselves, as there are close relationship between education and society. The sociological methods of the study of comparative education does not emphasize only the past causative factors, but also those social and cultural aspects which may be responsible for the problem. That is what we have said. Now, having said that, kindly allow me to talk about the assumptions of this approach, the assumptions of sociological approach. It is assumed that society is considered as a fit subject for speculation and inquiry. Inquiry into the nature of human knowledge, the nature of human science, and the question whether laws and principles underlie the growth and development of society are important. Comparative inquiry into education may exhibit the influence of the trend towards the study of society. The development of a sociological viewpoint implies a degree of analysis, rather more refined than mere cultural descriptions. It emphasizes, or its emphasis, I want to say this, that the emphasis is on the possibility of prediction, the possibility of prediction. Thus, comparative education or the comparative education study will be a study of the dynamic or the dynamics of an educational system and of its relationship with other aspects of society. So, what are the problems that we are supposed to follow? So, the steps that could be followed when using sociological method of data are the ones that I'm going to point out here. One, identification and collecting things of practical value that can be learned from the study of foreign systems of education. And secondly, analysis of the extent to which things outside the schools may influence things inside the schools. An analysis of how school teaching staff or classes of pupils relate themselves to the system and how they may connect with the life of the nation. Thirdly, this is the third step, that investigations of how comparative education studies as instrument of reform may also be an agency for promoting international understanding. Since the collection of information of a comparative kind will make it necessary for teachers, then it is very important for all of us to take this step very seriously. For example, there should be a system of our own country, Kenya. This ought to give the clues to the most valuable lessons which can be drawn from the education systems of other countries. We have to show concern for national background in our inquiries on educational systems of the country we have studied. And lastly, there is need to be aware of the education reform and innovation that would widely be accepted and social implications. Now, the last step that you need to know or you need to be aware of is that look for the means of prediction or theories which would enable us to anticipate events. Prediction as a purpose implies a stress on sociological dimension in addition to the historical perspective of pioneers. Friends, having said that, I think you will allow me to talk about the shortcomings of sociological methods. The sociological method suffers from the limitations that it ignores the contribution of individuals towards growth of education. We know that in each country there are some individuals who have contributed immensely towards the growth of education in their countries. The main proponent of this approach are Michael Sadler, William Harris, A.J. Noah, and M.A. Eckstein. These are the proponents of sociological methods. Now, having said that, I want you to allow me move to the final stage under social science perspective, and this is philosophical analysis as a method in comparative study. In using this technique, the main assumption is that a process of simplifying will succeed in diminishing the number of diverse events to be considered. Explanation of any educational system is connected with its philosophy or with the philosophy of a country. The national styles of philosophy or different styles of arguing, for example, America, pragmatism or French nationalism can help in explaining the education system found in a particular country. Thus, the establishment of a predominant mode of thought can be linked to every aspect of education organization, of the culture, and the methods of teaching employed. In this approach, we stress the need to collect reliable data on the international scale in order to facilitate comparison in education. We have to explore the possibilities of defining a number of national notions stemming from each national's philosophical orientation. The meaningful comparison and even prediction is done as to what may happen in future according to the national styles of thinking and hence of doing things. Thus, in advocating the isolation of only one main element, the ideology, the philosophical analysis may give us a manageable scheme, allowing a clear relationship to be established. If this exists between educational practices and national thought or style. Hello, friends. Are you still there? Are you still there? You are quiet. Florence, are you still around? Or it is the phone that is attending? Okay. Donald, that is okay? Okay, okay, okay. So you are still around. Okay. Um, because a few of you complained about lessons taking too long, I don't intend to extend further than this. And that is why I want to allow you Go and enjoy yourselves, enjoy your supper, and enjoy the company of your friends. Mm, Make sure that you attempt the cards that I've given you or take away assignments. We shall have presentations in class on Wednesday, and we are also going to have a sitting card that is going to take place within 10 days from now. And in our subsequent classes, I'll tell you how to prepare for that card, that sitting card. We have not set in all areas, but I'll just tell you a few topics that you'll concentrate in while preparing for a sitting card. So we have not said in everything that I've taught. That is as far as I know. So in our subsequent classes, I'll prepare you people. I'll tell you on where particularly you are supposed to stress on. Otherwise, have a good evening. God bless you. Remain good students, focused, and all shall be well. Bye for now.